Hey yo, salute to all my subscribers. Special shout out to everybody else passing through. What's good? All right, Bill Cosby found guilty in his sexual assault retrial. Retrial. Um, so I literally just got the story across. The notification came through on Twitter. I was taking a look at the story out in Morristown, Pennsylvania, where Bill Cosby was on his second trial, the one from last summer, where the jury was ultimately deadlocked after 6 days of deliberation, and then the new trial was set and scheduled, which had been underway. And today, after only 2 days of deliberation, this time around, the jury has come back with a guilty verdict. Um, so I'm going to get into why I decided to talk about this trial and this conviction here. First, what I want to do is I want to go over the counts of what Bill Cosby was actually convicted of, and then I'm going to ask you guys to go ahead and like, comment, and subscribe, and give me your thoughts and opinions on what you guys feel. Um, you know, related to this case. So here are the official charges of and what was ultimately the conviction. Three counts: penetration with lack of consent, penetration while unconscious, and penetration after administering an intoxicant. All three felonies. All three each carry up to a maximum of 10 years, but more than likely, and what I would probably imagine would happen in a case like this, is that he would more than likely probably be sentenced to 10 years with these charges to run concurrent. And for those of you who aren't well versed in the criminal justice system, um, neither am I. But what I do know is that concurrent means that where you have three separate charges that could each lead you to serve 10 years each, which would be 30 years for the three charges. Concurrent would mean that you would just get the 10 for all three collectively. So you would basically be serving each of those sentences for those three counts at the same time. So rather than doing 30 years, you would do 10 years. Or, the judge could say the sentences are to run consecutively, which would mean you would serve on the one count the 10 years. Immediately after that's done, you would serve on the next count of 10 years. And then immediately after that's done, you would serve on the final count of 10 years, adding up to 30. So definitely would be better. It's always better for a person being sentenced to have their counts, if there are multiple counts and convictions, to have them run concurrently, because then you're just serving that time all together in one lump sum, rather than separately spreading it out 30 years. That was just the explanation of the difference between consecutive and concurrent. But here's what I really wanted to get into related to this story here. So first of all, and I'm documented on this platform as well as all my other platforms. Bill Cosby is one of those individuals like O.J. Simpson, right, who separated himself from black people, and that's kind of why, if you've been following, the this entire case from when the allegations first started over a decade ago, and then the rumors that were going on even longer back when this was all going on, and then most recently, a couple years ago, a few years back, when these things first started to come out, um, these 50 plus or however many women it was that was making these allegations. Black people didn't really come to the aid of Bill Cosby. And that's not surprising. People who think that we just will automatically ride with somebody because they're black, just because it's against the system. That's not the case. Our shit is calculated. First of all, nobody condones this type of behavior. If you're guilty of these types of crimes, there's no explanation, there's no justification. Nobody's really gonna ride for you. I don't care who they are, just the way that it is, and rightfully so. But in this, what you expect to see is, and there were a few people who, had this impression was, he's being set up every time we have a prominent black figure. There's some kind of scandal or allegations that come up, and these women are all lying, or they're being paid to do it, or they're being forced to do it. Whatever. I not my position to say yes or no one way or the other. We live in an era now where all these Me Too movements are going on, where you can't even say the wrong thing, even if it's your truthful and honest opinion, because people would just tear you apart. And that's unfortunate, but here we are. What I want to know though is, do you guys really think that there is something to this? I'm typically under the belief that if multiple people are saying the same thing essentially, then there's something to it. That's just always been my belief. That could be flawed, could be faulty. How I look at it though is, if you have multiple people from different age groups, different points and periods in time, and there's no connection between those people, and they're all saying something similar, then there's some truth somewhere. That's just always been how I approach. That's my logic for everything. I don't care who it is. Um, or are we of the belief that this guy is a monster and did these things, or we taking what the defense is saying into account, and these women were trying to exploit some type of potential benefit to their careers, and when it didn't work, this was the result. I would have a hard time with that narrative, only because so much time has elapsed. If that was the case, I would think people would have come forward decades ago if the purpose was exploitation, because you know that would have been, in the moment, would have been the time to really make something happen, not 30, 40 years later. You know what I mean? So I don't know, but I do want to know what you guys think. Verdict did just come down not too long ago. Bill Cosby found guilty. We don't know what his sentence is going to be. More than likely is what the consensus seems to be on sentencing being handed down as being concurrent for those three convictions. Um, the judge could make an example. It's definitely within the scope of the judge to say, "I'm going to give you 20 years," or "I'm going to give you the full 30." We don't know what's going to happen. Definitely going to follow this story closer. I'm sure that as the hours go on, because people are still at work and people are still in school or what have you. And like I said, this literally, I just saw this maybe 20 minutes ago, 15 minutes ago. It's definitely already popping up all over my phone on all the other sites, that the verdict came down. So I expect this to blow up fairly soon. Bill Cosby did it to himself. Black people are not going to come to your defense and root for you when you have purposely gone out of your way to separate yourself from black people. You can't throw us away. And then when something happens and shit hits the fan, now you want us to come to your defense, speak out on your behalf, and go to bat for you. Not gonna happen. You know what I'm saying? You can't throw us away and pick us back up. You can't be black when it's convenient for you to be black, and then separate yourself from us, when shit's going good. It's the OJ syndrome. It's the same thing that I talk about often on this platform. Um, I don't know, man. I'm 34. I'm one of those 80s babies who grew up watching the Cosby Show. That was one of the main shows that I watched back then. And of all the shows that I watch, you think of shows like Who's the Boss, you think of shows like A Facts of Life, you think of shows like Amen, 227, Family Matters, Fresh Prince. You think of all these different shows, Charles in Charge, all these different after school shows and shows that we watched in the summertime. The Cosby Show was one of the first, and definitely a show that I watched for years and years and years, even as I got older, even when the show was no longer airing. We watched the reruns. And, being black and coming from the inner cities, to see something like that on TV was different, so it's part of what made him legendary. I was never really a fan of Bill Cosby's stand up comedy. I definitely think he was funny. He had sort of that dry humor, more serious in nature, but I wasn't really a big fan of his stand up comedy. The Cosby Show, though, is definitely what I think captured the hearts and minds of people who look like me and come from the same backgrounds as I do. To even be able to see a black family being painted in that way. When that the inner city, for the most part, growing up, most of the people I knew, most of the friends that you had, came from a single parent household, or, you know, similar situations like that. And even if they didn't, their father might have been a janitor or a plumber, or, their mom might have been, a secretary or something, anything of that nature. But definitely not, the norm was not doctors and lawyers. Definitely not. So, that show added a lot, in the way of optimism and the way of showing uh, kids growing up in the black community that this type of thing does exist, and even if it was just TV, it was possible. And I think it paved the way for a lot of the sitcoms, a lot of the black sitcoms that later came and that were ultimately successful. But that's neither here nor there. I can be a fan of the craft, I can be a fan of the art form, or a fan of the talent. Doesn't necessarily mean I have to be a fan of the person. I wasn't there, I don't know how the situation unfolded. um, I know typically people say where there's smoke, there's fire. I'm inclined to believe that in most cases. If this was a situation where it was just one or two women, I would say I don't know. I would probably be on the fence. 50 plus, either way, it's a bad situation. Um, More than likely, he's going to prison and for a very long time. I can see his defense team, or his attorneys trying to get him some type of reduced sentencing or something of that nature just because of his age. I don't think it'll work. What I am curious about though is that I was always under the assumption, maybe I had the time period wrong. I would have thought that the statute of limitations on this allegation here would have been far outside of its bounds, and maybe that's why the other claims weren't able to be prosecuted, and maybe this one just fell right inside of that time period. But I mean, what I do think, because when I was reading the story, um, it, it's pretty clear, at least from the perspective of the defense attorneys, and probably everybody else, if you're reading or have read the story, or if you're going to read the story. I really think it's the public knowledge of this case, because it's such a high profile case. The public knowledge of it, and the fact that there are so many women. I think this one woman who ultimately um, pressed charges and ultimately resulted in this guilty verdict. I think this one woman. Um, I don't think it was as much about her as it was the collective of these women who brought these allegations. I think that this woman kind of spoke for the collective of these other women, and I don't think. I think if it wasn't for the other women, I don't. I think that this case would have gone differently. What I am a little confused about, also, maybe somebody has the information out there. Um, um, the last trial ended in a mistrial. 6 days the jury deliberated and couldn't reach a verdict. It'd be interesting to know what the difference was, because I don't think that the defense was approached in any majorly different way this time around than the last trial. And if something's not broke, you don't fix it. If there was a if the jury was deadlocked on the original trial, I don't see why the defense team would stray too far away from that same strategy. So it's either, was there new information that came out, and maybe someone out there knows, or is familiar and can definitely get in the comments and let me know. Either there was some new information that came out, or there was a change in the jury, because obviously, new trial, new jury selection. Was the jury more closely handpicked? I don't know. I don't mean to be conspiracy theory driven here. I'm just throwing some shit out that may possibly come out in the next coming days and weeks. And there's definitely an appeals process. This is the second trial, but there's definitely an appeals process, and I'm sure that we will see that happen as well. I don't know, man. Look, no matter who it is, anytime someone gets drawn up in these types of situations where there is even the slightest possibility that a person could be found guilty behind false allegations. I always feel bad for that person and wish them the best. I don't know if that's the case here. I'm not drawing an opinion on that solely because of the number of women with these allegations. Definitely appears that some shit went down. Exactly what it was, I don't know. I would imagine that there's probably one or two women in the mix here who probably saw their opportunity. But I do think something happened, with the rest of these women. And I'd like to know what you guys think. Um, Also, last thing, interesting as well. Um, back in 2004, um, this woman and Bill Cosby. I only don't say certain names, for those of you who might be wondering. If it's a prominent figure, a famous person, where their name and all that, it's all public information. But obviously, it goes without saying. So I'll mention a Bill Cosby or an O.J. Simpson or you know, uh, whatever the case, Meek Mill. But when it comes to like the victims or the other person involved, typically, I just because of my personal preference, I typically will leave their name out of it. Even in this story that I read, the story of the guilty finding, I don't even see anywhere in here where they put the woman's first name in there. They just keep referring to the woman as um, uh, Miss Constant, but they don't actually put the first name in there, which is cool, whatever. But interesting part in the story though is, looks like Bill Cosby gave this woman $3.38 million back in 2006 after the alleged incident that happened in '04 was told to someone, and then there were some charges brought. But then ultimately, the DA at that time decided that they weren't going to prosecute. But then I guess there was either some kind of a civil suit or there was some kind of a settlement reached. But what's funny is typically when these things happen, and correct me again if I'm wrong, um, I'm actually reading it right here. This $3.38 million settlement back in '06, there were this was a part of a confidential financial settlement, um, stemming from the lawsuit. What I don't understand is if there's a lawsuit and if there's a confidential financial settlement, wouldn't there be non-disclosure agreements that would be signed, or something that would essentially this person would be agreeing that they wouldn't try to bring charges against this person later. I do know that one of the kind of caveats to a valid contract is that y there can be no expectation of a person doing something that's illegal as a part of that agreement or unlawful. I don't know if that would necessarily fall under the under this what we're talking about here, but I mean, if they had a lawsuit and there was a settlement, um, how then was this woman able to file charges later on? That part I'll have to look further into because they don't really expound on it here in this news story. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Bill Cosby found guilty. Does not say when sentencing is going to be, so we don't know yet. Um, he is 80 years old though, so I mean, even if he even if these three convictions run concurrent and he gets 10 years, we're talking about him being 90 when he gets out of prison. I don't even believe at his age that he would survive a 10-year bid anyway. I would fully expect him to probably pass away in prison if that's where he ends up. If that's where he ends up. Or will he be able to stay out on bail? He definitely has the resources. Because typically, when there's an appeals process, as part of the due process per the Constitution, there are more cases than not where you're able to stay out on bail pending the outcome of your appeals. So we'll have to wait and see what's going to happen here. But this definitely is big news. I expect it to hit the media in full force within the next couple hours, as people leave work and school and really start to sign in and tune in to see what's going on here. But let me know what you guys think. Is this one of those conspiracies where we always say certain people get pegged? You think about for my boxing fans, you think about Tyson back in the early '90s. You think about what happened. It wasn't just him. There were other people prior to him, prominent figures, but he was one of the most notable. There's still a debate that goes on to this day. Did he really rape that woman? Some people say no. Some people say, something happened. You don't know. For my hip hop fans, for my rap fans, same thing happened to Tupac. Although he wasn't convicted of rape, he wasn't convicted of any of the charges as serious in nature as Mike Tyson was, who was actually convicted of rape, and Bill Cosby here, who was convicted of sexual assault. Um, Tupac was convicted, of similar charges, but to a lesser degree, and ultimately was sentenced to prison as well. Um, is this another one of those cases? Because I don't know too many people who believes that Tupac did what he was convicted of. I don't know too many people personally who believes Mike Tyson did what he was convicted of. And I don't know too many people who believes that Kobe Bryant did what he was charged with, but ultimately those charges were dropped, dismissed. I don't know. It's just another case of this is what happens when you're a prominent black figure in this day and age, or are these celebrities doing shit thinking that they can get away with it because of their stature, and then shit hits the fan because they come across a woman who's not just gonna lay down for that type of shit, and then this is the bed that they make, so they have to lie in it. I don't know. I'm just posing a question. I don't pretend to know everything. I just know what I know, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace and love.